Hello.
Hello, what's happening, man?
Hi, how's it going?
Me, I'm just, I'm overstanding.
You're overstanding
Yeah,
more and more every day.
Yeah, I am. But what does it mean to verse stand?
The Jesuits use the term verse stand, which means towards a goal.
Oh, okay. Alright. Because I am verse standing, I guess.
Now,
Because, I'm just looking at that. See, the whole picture that I'm getting, thanks to the premise that you have, and everything I'm putting together, it's all an allegory. It's nothing like black and white.
no.
So, it's like, how do you explain this to somebody?
How do you explain to somebody that a system has decided to make a slave out of a cocktail consisting of male, female, Neanderthaler, telephone system, media, all on a bagel and send it out in the universe?
Well, that's funny with the the lettuce thing. That's actually a sacred plant in one of them.
Yeah.
The mysteries. So I guess that was like known back then. And I think about how they and this is from what I got because they have the north, east, west, and south. They're all symbolic. And the north, they say, is the place of darkness. And then I'm thinking about how the whole northern hemisphere is gonna be Blackwater. And so how that's all symbolic of the whole world. Every
The opposite will be true.
Oh.
It will never be dark.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you got a new sun showing up.
Oh, I'm just saying.
Alder-Amin.
Oh.
Alder-Amin is going to be in the sky at visually at the direction you now see the moon.
Yeah.
So, since it's 23 times the luminosity of the sun, don't expect to see the lights go out.
No, because they say the place is the north, so I'm thinking the northern hemisphere has going to be Blackwater. That's going to be dark. That's what I was thinking of.
Well, the northern hemisphere has 24-hour days without sun and 24-hour days without darkness, depending on how the Earth is facing the sun.
So why do they refer to that place, the north, as a place of darkness?
Well, because it's a place that has the extremes, but you have basically the same type of activity at both north and south. Because the Earth rotates, but it also tilts.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's tilting one way, down, the rays of the sun go over the equator, but can't basically reach the part that has been tilted away from it. So it does the same thing on both sides, north and south.
Oh.
I guess because there's no countries in the southern hemisphere. At the South Pole, there was nobody going there. It wasn't like nobody living in the north, in Canada and Alaska. They had people there, so they could report back on the days when there would be no sunshine and days where there would be no darkness.
Yeah, because when I look at these allegories, I'm I get amazed.
Mm-hmm.
How? Because it'll be multiple things at one time, all running concurrent, all multiple allegories.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I'm just like, whoa. Like I was like the whole how they have the supports, the pillars of the law, support pillars, and one is wisdom, one is beauty, one is strength, and it's support, and it's an allegory for for Solomon, Hiram, and Hiram of Biff and King Hiram of Tyre. Then it's another allegory for the sun rising in the east, setting in the west, you know. But then I see it's another allegory because it's the allegory of the system starting in the east and coming out to the west. And it's another allegory at the same time for it's that whole creator, destroyer, preserver, how they created it in the east and they're preserving it in the west, and from the south underground they're gonna destroy everything. So I don't know. I thought that was like amazing. Like wow, hi. I guess because all that time they could make it fit.
Each mythology came into play in turn as people were being added after the Ice Age back to the surface of the earth. So you would have Hindu mythology going into background being replaced by Chinese mythology. Going into background being replaced by Egyptian mythology. Going into background being replaced by Persian mythology, and then Greek mythology and Roman mythology. And the last one, a compilation of all, is Scandinavian.
Exactly. The Scandinavian ones were the one that really interested me because they look a little different from the other ones because they have, each mysteries I've seen, they had a sacred plant.
Yeah.
Like an acacia and all these plants. But it's interesting how in the Scandinavian one, the one plant that killed Barler or the mistletoe, I think it was. But usually that's different from all the other ones because usually the person usually gets brought back to life or is reborn. Or.
But remember, the word sacred is the most important of all, because what you're dealing with is a red bag. And your final product is basically a bag lady.
Oh.
So when you're talking red, you're talking Persian. Per is the same as red, since the P and the D can be flipped and turned. Persian means red. So SAC, S-A-C, there's two significance there. There's in the translation into English from French, a sac in French is a bag. And a sac is a sacrifice, giving it up. Now, think of it in terms of atoms. Quarks are so tiny and so unstable that you cannot see them. You can take out a microscope and see an atom, but you can't see quarks. Quarks reside along with other things like neutrons, electrons, and occupy space within a bag. The name of the bag is called a hadron. Since it's always in the hadron and can't be seen, they've developed something called a particle accelerator with a hadron collider. A hadron collider basically means that they're shooting particles around in opposite directions so that two bags will hit each other. And the contents of the bags will be thrown out of the bags. But they need to immediately find their way to another bag and hide back in another bag. It's at that fraction of a second that they hope to be able to photograph a cork being thrown from a bag and looking for another bag to get in, another hadron, another particle. All of that concept is telling you some things, is that today we have different kinds of bags, and what they contain determines the kind of life that exists on the planet. If you make a new bag, you're making a new type of life. And that's where, in the world of art, they communicate messages to each other. It was Brown, singer, James Brown, who sang, "Daddy's got a brand new bag." What he was saying is, they've created a new version of life. It's the same thing as saying, our enterprise is a success.
Yeah.
That they have found the way to merge all of the things they want to merge. And what they want to merge is male, female, Neanderthaler, media, telephone, high-speed communications, all in a bag, so that it can be sent out on journeys in a pod to the outer reaches of the universe.
When did they decide exactly, like, when to have the 3-in-1?
Well, they, as far back as you can see from the beginning of history, which follows the Ice Age, they're obviously working towards that goal. It's the realization that by creating genders, you've weakened the slave and strengthened the individual. That is great for the individual, bad for the slave master. So the slave master begins a project of saying, okay, before I put the male and female back together again, let's look at all the options here. Should there be other parts included in this project? And that's the conclusion. Yeah, there should be. There should be the part that reboots it, which is the media. Reboots the program all the time. There should be the part that pulls the reins, Neanderthaler. There should be the part that communicates, tell us. Yeah. There should be the part that communicates 24/7, high speed. There should be the male structure and the female appearance, all in a pod and all able to make duplicates of itself. Now, do you want it to be exactly like the female is today on the outside? Or would you like to get even with the female?
I think they did a long time ago.
The Barbie doll tells you how they plan to get even.
What, the name? Barbie?
No genitals.
The
The feelings, but no way to do anything about it. That's misery. That's really miserable.
Yeah.
Now, when you look at this entire recipe, you have to conclude that the Neanderthaler is no longer in charge, because he's being treated as an equal to the male, female, and being shipped off into the universe. So you have to conclude that the computer is taken over, that HAL is hell, that HAL is running the show. The savant parts of all the brains working together have taken over. As a chemical computer, it has no need of anything that humans consider needs. And it's quite happy running the entire process by manufacturing task-specific slaves. Cro-Magnon for Africa prior to the Ice Age, Roma after the Ice Age, and then testing the different races to figure out exactly what the mix should be, working out that tan will be the color of the extremes mixed together, black and white.
Yeah.
You have to believe that slavery was basically intended for that purpose. It was not to use black people as animals and in a slave market, but it was to bring them in contact with white people, knowing that what happens always happens.
Oh yeah, nature runs.
The master will take advantage. The sons of the master will take advantage. There will be revenge. There will be rapes. There will be all kinds of things. And in the end, you get the mixture called mulatto.
And that's what they wanted. That's what it was. Oh.
So all of these things are suggestive that somebody is in charge, and at the beginning, it's obvious that it starts with Neanderthaler, but at the end, it's not so certain that Neanderthaler is not just being treated like anything else, a unit put in to do a task-specific job within each of these peas in a pod. So the only conclusion one can arrive at is that the computer has looked at the life of bees and has seen the task-specific roles. The worker bee is a female. The drone is basically the male whose only task is to inseminate females. And the queen's only task is to make babies for next year. And at the end of the season in a beehive, the drones are kicked out to freeze to death over the wintertime, and the queen's kicked out. And the females gather in a bunch and stay in the hive, keeping the pupa warm enough so that in the springtime the cycle begins again. New female workers are born. New drones, males, are born to inseminate. And a few of the females are kept separate, whose pupa will be given royal jelly, and the first one that pops out is made queen. She'll be laying eggs all summer, while the other ones that haven't arrived yet are killed and thrown out, and the process begins again. The key word in all of those things is drone. Doctored one. DR1. Drone is used in the word hadron collider. H, the A can be an E that goes at the end. Drone collider. But it's also used in the group that joins Canada and the U.S. together, Colorado.
I see, when I look at this, Glenn, I see these people, these groups, that they truly emulate nature and they use it for the benefit. They truly are at all levels. Every level I see how anything that you consider nature, that they thought about that and used that.
Yeah.
Like logic, everything. Even
it was all known, it was all written, it was all practiced long before the Ice Age, the last Ice Age, the last of 4 Ice Ages. So that means all before 24,000 BC. There's nothing new.
Yes.
The only thing they had not experienced was space flight. And that was the reason for making people with RAM memory. And it's all linked to the word shit in French. Merde. M-E-R-D-E. RAM, M-A-R-M-E-R. D-E, Deutsche. De in French. From, D-E. So you have to think of it, it's the plan is based upon the digestive system in the human body. It's a journey that ends up as shit, as the penultimate, second last.
This is anatomy right here and how the human body works.
Yeah. And P, the final step.
Well, now, that's another thing I forgot to tell you. The allegory too was like King Solomon, and he's like almost like they call him wisdom because it's in the east and the sun.
He's the stupidest bastard in the whole world. Solomon was basically building a temple when his dad had already built a tunnel underneath, so that anything he put in the vault would be stolen. I mean, how can you call that smart?
But I think the whole allegory of them building the temple was actually another allegory of them working on humanity.
Of course.
Because the temp... Mm-hmm.
And it's pointing the finger again at Neanderthaler being so smart, but yet so stupid. That the Neanderthaler is being suckered every step of the way in the same way as the Neanderthaler is suckering men, and men are suckering women, everyone thinking they're retrieving power from the other one, while in the end, it's the computer that wins it all.
So it's like we're all gonna go.
Yeah. That's why we need to have this meeting of the minds to define how we can get through to the Neanderthaler.
How can you get
every step of the way, it has to be made clear to each participant that they're not going to survive this.
But how can you get through to the Neanderthal?
Well, through the system they've set up. You got to back it up. It's like reverse engineering. They engineered it through secret societies. We have to re-engineer it backwards, back down to the Neanderthaler, who is the penultimate position, just before the computer, going in that direction. So we have to get the word out that no priest wins. No religious community wins. No political community wins. No financial community wins. No Neanderthaler wins. No males, no females. No media. Nobody in the line of things created by the genetic engineering process survives as the master. The master becomes a machine.
Yeah, with in Freemasonry, like, supposedly, like, maybe you could get through them, some of them, I don't know, because in Freemasonry, supposedly the goal is to attain truth. Yeah. And that's what they say, like...
Well, that's what they say. Do they really believe it?
No.
Absolutely not.
I'm saying the people who follow it, they probably really believe that. You know?
Well, I don't know, because the people who follow it
just like any
don't have an opinion of their own. They wait to be told by the system what their opinion should be, and they flock to that new opinion, whatever it is.
They don't read the literature that their own institution puts out.
No, obviously not.
Wow, that's so like
they're greedy, and the greed overrides everything.
And that's why they up there too. But wow, because
they are accumulators, and they are greedy, and they are misers, and that process makes them control freaks. It's really a pity, because they obviously don't read what they themselves put out. They certainly don't act like they believe it. They don't want the better of mankind, and they just look at how quickly Google and Yahoo can make a bunch of people who claim to be seekers switch sides without even looking into the details of things on the net. I mean, it's amazing to watch how they can manipulate people who supposedly are thinkers.
Let me tell you something about this whole, like, thinker movement or whatever. These guys are exactly what they talk about. They're just like the masses.
Yeah.
To me, it's the same thing to me.
Absolutely.
I'm so sick and tired of that word that they use. Oh, truth this, and freedom. And they don't even know what these terms mean. It's all relative, these terms, I know. But they don't actually analyze what that word actually means and actually think about it. Like, it just gets me.
Yeah, they're short-term people. Short-term people are looking for instant gratification.
Yeah.
And give me a contract, give me money, give me a position of power, put me on the news, that bullshit stuff.
Yeah.
That's not what it's all about.
Mm-hmm.
You're here to learn. You're here to basically learn it one step at a time and have it completely under your control before you move to the next step and the next step, so that everything is overstood. You're dealing with facts not as if they're happening to you, but as if you were having an out-of-body experience, looking down at all of the things you overstand.
Yeah.
Without having the Jesuit aspect of verstand, having a predetermined outcome. When you're overstanding, you're not caring about what the outcome will be, because you're not supposed to know the outcome until you've been through the process of overstanding everything. You can't prejudge the outcome.
Yeah.
You must see it with your own eyes and listen with your own ears. So,
yeah, I'm still on this thing of learning and overstand. So when people ask me, like, I can conclude that there's a lot more to everything, but I can't conclude because I don't know the whole thing.
Absolutely.
Really.
How can you conclude with the information that you have?
Mm-hmm.
The only information that you have has allowed you to discard a whole bunch of possibilities, but you don't know the final yet because you're not there yet. The only thing you've learned is that there are more things to learn.
Yeah. So I realize how much I don't know just looking at, when I go out and I'm really analyzing now. Like when I look at nature and I'm looking at like the plants dying and just analyzing this and why they held all these things in nature, and like in Freemasonry, why they held these things so symbolic, these things. And I'm like, wow, from how I, like just watching how the sun comes up and all the birds singing, and that's where they got the concept of everybody, like rejoicing when Jesus was, because that's what happens when the sun comes up. Yeah. It's all all the animals and stuff and rejoice and whatever. But
imagine what happens when two suns come up.
yeah, be really hot.
Yeah, too hot to be around.
It's good to be underground.
That's a principle that struck me, because when I started on this, I had absolutely no doubts that this planet is not able to survive any more than any other planet. At one stage of the game, it has to be dead, because the conditions that make it alive will not exist anymore. The sun will have shrunken as it burns itself to death. But I figured, hey, that's, a couple of billion years from today and not something you need to really worry about. And why are these people worrying about it like as if it's going to happen tomorrow? And then you find out about Alder Amin being a second sun. And it's going to be around not in a few billion years, but in a few thousand years. But it's not going to be permanent, like the sun dying. It's going to be a thing in passing. 10,000 years or whatever may sound like a long time to us. But
that's nothing.
Context of the universe, it's peanuts. But you got to think about, if you plan on living past that 10,000 years, you know, what do you have to do in order to survive that? And there's only one place on the planet that you can survive.
Not everybody on the planet can live there, right?
That's right. So what do? You ship off as many people as you can on one-way journeys in the universe, so that they are basically traveling and discovering and communicating while you cannot be on the surface, while the temperature is too hot for people to be on the surface. So that's basically their plan. Makes a lot of sense in the context that people are going to die anyway.
Yeah.
What's the best that you can do in the future for the people on the planet? And that's to get them out of the way. Now, do you really want to get them out of the way by turning them into pseudo-hermaphrodites? Becomes the question. Or wouldn't it be better for the people on the planet to leave the planet as genders rather than as pseudo-hermaphrodites? Genders are more intelligent. They're more living than robotic. And that's basically the lessons learned on Earth, is that if you have a clan and it becomes too big, you divide it into smaller groups. And then you find out that the brain of those people who marry far apart gets bigger and better than the ones who live closer together. And
I was explaining this to my friend, like how when I caught this scabies thing and I was reading about it. It's funny because you find out that the female they basically burrow under the skin and make eggs and lay, and the males go on the surface. That's like a clan society.
Yeah.
Looking at just that one little aspect of nature is crazy. I learned so much.
Do we want to be drones?
No, I don't want to be. No.
Do we want to be so specific in life that we only have one task? Or isn't the variety of different things much more interesting in a lifetime?
I like the individuality aspect. I like that concept, just being able to make my own decisions
sure, and change over time. They're asking us to become toll booth operators. Sit in a chair and watch people throw quarters. That doesn't sound like an interesting life.
No.
So that's basically the question. But we're only two people, and you have to have those 13 at offering opinions.
Yeah.
And there certainly has to be 13 people in the world that have an opinion that really matters to creation.
I know there's people out there. I know. I see people who can grasp this thing, and I know that's probably a sign. Like you said, like this is like your block came here like so many times. They had to have done that.
Yeah.
again before. You know. So like, I'm starting to really feel, and that's the main doctrine I see in Freemasonry is immortality of the soul. That's they always come back to that immortality of the soul.
And that just means DNA.
Yeah, yeah. And they'll talk about this rebirth, but these priests, like, because they're obviously closer to the truth than you know, on the lower end of the scale. Like, don't they know there's something bigger than this person that they HAL that they're serving?
Yeah, but why do they basically make sexual abuse such a large part of their lives? Isn't that childlike? Isn't that instant gratification type of thing, where they're claiming just the opposite? Isn't the entire process of religion symbol of hypocrisy?
Yeah.
Don't do as I do as I say type of thing?
Yeah. That's interesting. It reminded me of a movie. I was watching parts of it. It's called 10,000 BC. And it takes place like these mammoth hunters. You know, and they show like the movie. I thought was kind of horrible, like because it was so fake of how it really was.
Mm-hmm.
From what I could find, like they show like a clan kind of, but it's all males and it's like two female, one female who runs everything. Who's basically
but that's
like
after the Ice Age. 10,000 BC is after the Ice Age.
Yeah.
It's the ice started melting at 16,000 BC.
Mm.
So to get the real clan mother, you kind of go past 24,000 BC.
And you think you'll find that in mythology?
Yeah. I mean, it's all there, and you're basically looking at the pieces when you're looking at Hindu or Chinese or Persian. But you're looking at the bigger picture when you're looking at Norse mythology, because the word Norse is just ruse.
Mm.
It's the mythology based upon a ruse, a trick. Yeah. The question is, whose trick is it? And to us, when we start the project and look at this, it looks like a Freemasonry trick. But in the end, you start saying, well, wait a minute. Masons, yeah, but they have bosses, and their bosses are ecclesiastics. They're religious people. So it must be a ecclesiastic rules. And then you say, oh, wait a minute. You know, they have bosses, and their bosses are Neanderthalers. Must be a Neanderthaler rules.
And you say,
when you identify Neanderthalers as being idiot savants, equivalent to Stephen Hawking, I mean, they can't do anything on their own.
So it's the other part of them that's running.
Yeah, there has to be a place where all that genius comes together and gives the orders, and the only answer to that is computer. HAL's baby in 2001, A Space Odyssey.
Yeah, when you look at how the Freemasonry works and stuff, like, you can see, because Masons are workmen, that's what they do. And so obviously and that's how they show you their system symbolically, like when they built up these cathedrals, because it's the Masons that build it, but it's the architects that's giving them the orders. So obviously there's a grand architect somewhere.
Yeah, but there are two divisions, Cain and Abel. Cain's the builder.
Yeah, but that's the thing too. They tried splitting it up like Freemasonry. They said it was primitive Freemasonry and spurious. One that went under the Cain's bloodline basically, and another one that went under like Noah.
Yeah, well, the priests are like Abel.
Yeah.
They don't work. They're the media.
Mm-hmm.
They're the artists. While the workers are building the infrastructure of things that Abel uses after it's built.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very much like the concept of the honey guide. The honey guide needs infrastructure because it can't work without infrastructure. Mm-hmm. But it can't do the things that are needed to build it, or as the honey guide, to destroy in order to build. So the honey guide bird basically finds the beehive, sits on top, and yells, "There's one here, one here."
Mm-hmm. And
the animals that have the power to break into the beehive, the bears and the wolverines and those, they come over and they knock the whole place to smithereens, interested in only one thing.
The honey.
Honey. While the builders are waiting for the wax. The wax is the infrastructure. And much more important in the long run than the honey, which is instant gratification. So Cain is linked to instant gratification.
Yeah, that's what they were saying. Like Cain, his whole descendants, and it said it was Methuselah, and it was Seth, and I forgot the other guy's name. Oh yeah, it was Seth, and it was Seth. It says there was the virtuous race of Seth and his descendants, and the wicked one of Cain. So they're trying to say like there's a good masonry and a bad masonry, and it's just two sides of the same coin. Yeah. Do the people in Freemasonry actually believe this whole
different needs?
Oh, yeah.
Abel is looking for long-term stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Cain is looking for immediacy.
Mm. But they all work together with each other, right?
Well, not quite. They follow instructions from each other.
Oh, okay.
The priests are basically ruling the show without doing the work.
Yeah. And
keeping records.
So it's really the priest that somehow.
The priest is basically the unit that has contact going backwards in time with the Neanderthaler. But the priest has two divisions. And that's why he created marriage. Mm. One division is the priest and the religious people who control, and the other division is the spy he sends out to live in the community. And the spy is the woman he created that is not woman, but that will go beyond the walls of the castle and report back what's happening on the other side.
Yeah, it's interesting when you look up the definition of a woman. It's basically it's a servant. They say it's a servant, a female servant. And when you look at the definition of a man, it's like all these great things
and all of these things about this woman is linked to the word iron.
Yeah.
And iron is linked to what used to happen in Turkey, which was the center of ironworks, and that was where the Trojans were. But the word iron basically is telling you this is a beginning, not an end, because iron does not solve the problem.
Yeah, stainless steel.
You got to get it upgraded every step of the way.
Mm-hmm. That's nature, though, right?
That's how nature does it, so that's how they have to do it. And it's how do you improve the woman structure is you basically have to kill it and make it reborn with different DNA recombined in there to change the structure. So recombinant DNA brings you the steps you need to end up with this final product, which is the belt. To them means hardened stone. That is male, female, Neanderthaler, communications, media, high speed, all in a pod, going off into the universe. That's their final product. And they call it chrome. And it's linked to the word Rome.
Chroming?
and all of that is linked well to the automated system looking at things. Drone. Drone, Rome. Doctor.
You know what? With that stone that you said with from what I could see, this is a pillar of stone tablet that's been passed from Abraham through all the patriarchs, and they said it was placed in Mount Moriah, something like that. Is that where? That's supposed to be where you're at, Mount Moriah? Where it was? Or?
Moriah.
More.
Roma.
Yeah.
One Roma. It doesn't mean a mountain as much as process. Process on its way to being a drone. Flies over, sees everything. Hadron, drone. The name of that gang up in Colorado, the NORAD.
Yeah.
It's drone.
Yeah.
It's all about drones. A male hidden that can see everything. But it has no eyes. Its eyes are female. So on the outside towards the inside, you get the changes. And the highest level of iron is chrome. That's because you mix in a little nickel that keeps it from rusting. Makes it harder and shinier. Nickel is linked to Santa Claus, Nick, St. Nick, and it's also David Icke. Dyke.
Redirects the water.
Yeah. And Ike Eisenhower.
Yeah. You know, I've seen the movie, the books that you recommended to me. Yeah. I haven't read them, but I've seen two of them, too. The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and Prince Caspian. It's like, whoa, the symbolism and the allegories I'm reading. But they always, in all these movies, the Matrix, they always have the sacrifice. And it has to be willing. That's a big part of it. It has to be a willing sacrifice. And this is supposed to be, is this symbolical of like how Neanderthal sacrificed his genius?
Yeah. They give up what they had to the process to make it happen because they think this is better. That's why you got Obama yelling, yes, we can, yes, we can, yes, we can. Well, what are you canning? Canning peas.
Yeah.
You know, that's why the English language is so funny. Is that there are different meanings, and the people are listening with a sense of hearing that's been fabricated in their head, that they don't see the second meaning. That they're going to be the ones who are sacrificed in order that a new of humanity can live.
Well, I feel bad because it's like what they said. Let the dead bury their dead. Because I really can't. Like, I can't even help those people. I can't help them.
Well, alone, no one can. But a critical mass can clean up a critical mess.
They only respect public, what everybody else is saying, so they never respect what the individual is saying.
Because the controllers of information are the media, the Googles and the Yahoos of the world, and they're linked to the beginning of all of this. If you trace it back to Antarctica, I guess the second last place would be around New Zealand. New Zealand creates its mirror image in the north, Zeeland, that's Holland, the Zuider Zee, place of dams. So it's the ball being batted from the southern hemisphere to the northern hemisphere while they do their thing. Hang on just a second. Sorry about that. I had to let the dog out.
Was he nibbling at you?
It needed to go.
Oh, need to go back. Leave himself. I look these definitions and stuff.
This is the most important project anyone could undertake in an entire lifetime. There's nothing more important than learning what is really going on. What's this journey all about? Then bringing that experience back at the end of one's life to creation and say, my gift to you is experience. I know you have the knowledge, now you have the experience. You remember with creation and move on. Creation doesn't end with the end of this universe. Forever.
Yeah. I was looking up like what they say about the Big Bang. It's interesting. They said it was like an atom, or something like that. Is that another interpretation when they talk about the idea? Like when they talk, it was an idea that formulated.
The problem that they're having now with the Big Bang is that in the fraction of a second,
Mm-hmm.
immediately following the Big Bang,
Mm-hmm.
things changed. And everything that's been laid out by people like Einstein and Stephen Hawking and everybody else in there has a unified theory of the universe that works until that last fraction of a second where it doesn't seem to work, and it's all based upon gravity.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because at that particular moment in time, there was a massive change that occurred by quarks jumping from one bag into another, changing the combination and starting something new. So the things that exist now did not exist before. And if you knew what existed before, you would know what's going to happen in the future. And that's the whole problem that they're having. And at the same time, it's a gift of understanding or overstanding that one receives when one knows that at the basis of all of this is how these quirks are contained within a hadron, or a bag, as they call it, and are not seen until they jump from one place to another. That's the test they're trying to do with the collider, is photograph the quarks jumping from one bag to another when two bags collide and are destroyed, because you can't destroy quarks, parts of an atom. They're just remaking themselves under a different set of circumstances.
You think we'll ever really know, like, we'll ever really be sure how, like, it all gets started?
We will know when we find the plate. The answers are on that plate. It was known to people before the Ice Age.
So they knew the whole...
the knowledge of how you do that means that you will be able to advance science. Well, think of how things have changed since 1750 to now, as compared to from the Ice Age to 1750. It's a multiple number. Fantastic amount of change has occurred. Well, much, much more than that can happen in the world of knowledge and how things can be made to work for people instead of against people once you have that basic knowledge, which is hidden. Once you find that plate, it's the same thing as, like, the Mormons got the other half of the plate, how DNA functions. A very, very important piece of information, but used badly by people in order to control. Whereas the front part would, I suspect, tell you how you use science for the betterment of things, not for control. That's what I think lies underground here.
Well, I have a lot to learn, man.
You're only in your, 20s?
Yeah. It's just, this is like, for me, it's like this. I'm learning all this, and then I call you up, and you just bombard me with. I mean, you're feeling a lot of gas,
Yeah, well, that's. I'm a child in the universe.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't enough time in a lifetime to learn this. What you are basically being given is a jump start. So you've saved yourself the journey through a number of lifetimes, and you now arrive at a position which is further ahead at your age than I was.
Do you think creation did that?
Yeah. Creation, after all, can shut the computer down without our assistance. But this is all an experiment. Learning and experience. So it's letting it happen until it decides that the lessons have all been learned. Computer is not going to win against creation. It can win against genius, like Neanderthaler. It can win against control mechanisms like religion and politics and money and all of that stuff. But it can't beat creation. Creation was here before the Big Bang, will be here after this universe has been done with. And creation can be running more than one universe at one time. It's only us that's at stake. Do we prove ourselves worthy of remembering with creation? Or does creation look and say, nothing here worth saving, shut it down, period?
So how about those few people out there who are worth saving? Then they just go out with the bathwater and throw the baby out.
Find them. Find them. That's your critical mass. A task that seems so simple until you try and you run across people who are basically hypocrites and pretend that they're one thing and then prove to be just the opposite. It's the the allegory of Jesus at the crucifixion.
Judah?
Yeah. And all the disciples that, when it comes down to the crunch, not there.
Yeah. Yep. Now people can walk the walk.
Yeah.
People can't. They talk, but don't walk the walk. Well, that's what I see. Like, but people, like people who follow Alex Jones. Right? I mean, it's obvious that they run the media. So if you see Alex Jones, I watched the movie. It's called Scanner Darkly. It's a pretty interesting movie. But this guy is starred in the movie. He has a little part in the movie. Like, and if you see a guy that's in the movie, it's telling you I'm working for the system. I'm
absolutely. hey, when Google put me on, it scared me.
Yeah.
Because I knew they had to have a plan.
I put you on Google.
Yeah, but they could have taken it off in a second.
Yeah, but I really don't see, like, the only way if you were to mention a gun or something, but then.
No, they did. They had to have a meeting. I've been told by a number of people on the second day or third day, everything but the third disc.
Oh yeah, because this is what happened. Because I put it on, and the way I uploaded it, it was like I messed up. Like it would overwrite the first one, and then it'd be the second one. Then I'd put the second one and overwrite the second one. You know, so I read it all again, and now it's all on there. Now you know that was
done over 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
Okay, that explains that.
That was my mistake.
What they've done recently, what Dana called me up and told me about there was that they've now orchestrated it all so that I'm now being lumped in with Alan Watts and Jones and all of those things, which was what their plan was in the first place.
You are lumped in. Every time you hear your name, Alan Watts' name is going to be in there. Yeah.
So that was his purpose at the beginning, was he was to find out from me what I was saying so that he could say it and then be discredited and then bring me along so that I could be discredited too.
Yeah.
And the only way they can discredit me is by lying.
Yeah.
Because there is nothing that I have said that they don't know. It resides in their own DNA. So, hey, it's the system working its way.
Yeah, I know.
And when I thought the system wasn't functioning, I thought I had missed something. Now I feel much more secure because they've done my job for me. They've taken away those people that I didn't want in the first place and that they were going to send to me. Now they're not coming, those people, so they've solved my problem without me having to do anything. What I need is leaders. And leaders are not people who carry an army of followers. Leaders are people who can think for themselves. Don't need to be told what to think. They listen, they hear, they compute, they decide, they make decisions. Those decisions are not based upon somebody coming later on and saying, oh, no, don't do this.
Yeah, I know what you mean. 'Cause I see a lot of people saying the same things, but everything that the decisions I'm making is like, or from what I can see myself, but
I know.
Not a popular decision.
I can tell. And there are some people who've called me who have obviously some physical problems, but I can tell. Don't need to be in orator in order to think.
Yeah, you know.
It's the opposite. You need to shut up and hear and compute.
Yeah.
So the 13 can be out there, can be assembled. I don't know how many it will take before creation says we have it, but I have a few ideas about how we find out whether we're getting close or not.
Yeah.
Those kinds of things will be discussed here when people have taken the trouble of getting here.
Well, I'm getting better at I guess orating to people. So you know what's weird? I'm getting, I don't know, like it seems like the things I'm getting, like certain people, like emails I was getting emails of people offering me something, like to be part of some type of project, and I'm just like real sketchy about things like that. When I get attention like that.
You should see my email box. I've won every contest a million times. I've got all this money waiting for me. You know? I just delete.
Yeah.
Delete.
Mm-hmm.
Told them if they want to send me some money, there's only one way to do it. Bell Canada stole my project from me, and by now, with interest, it would be worth about $50 million. Well, since they stole it, and if they want to make amends, write a check for $50 million. But if you don't want to write a check because that will assume to other people that you're guilty of something and you're now making amends, since you control the lottery, send it to me through the lottery. I don't care. You steal it, and it's better you give it to me and I'll give it back to the people than you keeping it, you know, for your dastardly deeds that you do at Bell and Shell Oil and those places. So creation, however, has its ways, and its ways doesn't need Bell Canada or Shell Oil in order to make things happen. And it doesn't even need money. It can make things happen through an exchange of goods and services. 13 people can provide the ideas necessary to bring about the goods and services that are required. I would rather not see 1 cent make things happen anyway.
Yeah.
Money is only the tool that's supposed to make it easier to make things happen. It's the things happening I want to see. Money is only an intermediary.
Yeah.
And the 13 people thinking together will have the right ideas.
Yeah, there's people around, like, I've heard people say, like, they get scared of that 13. Like, one guy on computer, on YouTube said, he's like, oh, he's trying to be like Jesus Christ. It's a cult. Whatever, and I
don't know how one would try to be like Jesus Christ, since Jesus Christ is an allegory for all of us. All of us are already being crucified.
Yeah.
You know,
so I guess we are like Jesus Christ, all of us.
Yeah.
But I'd say it's a concept, because this person obviously doesn't know,
doesn't know physics.
It doesn't know physics.
Science.
And hasn't really looked up into the clan structure and how that worked. And because all I see it is as a concept of, this concept, and it's just, for me it's not just 13 people. It's like 13 people around you, 13 people around me, 13 people around the next person, and it keeps going. But
it's a scientific explanation about how you provide perfect security for a project. Circle it with 13 things that cover all of the spaces from which the project could be attacked. That requires 13 minds. I don't care if the bodies don't come. It's the minds we need. And I suspect I know where there are some minds. Part of what needs to be done is to facilitate their ability to get around, because people with functioning brains are not usually in the same place as people with money. And in order to move around, they need assistance. So if money was available, it would only be to provide it to those people whose brains you need. Since you don't know for certain by picking out 13, what you have to do is probably gather a group larger than 13 and let creation pick out who are the real 13, who are not. That's not a job that we can do. We can lower the odds by bringing together a group of people. Creation's the only one who can decide who passes the test. Many people in the past have been given resources in order to achieve creation's goals, but chose instead to use the resources for their own purposes. The gratification or the life of a miser. Both were counter to the reason they were given the resources. Creation knows the difference between people who say something and mean it and others who say it for personal gain. In any event, it is time for me to go to bed.
I sleep pretty late now. When I go to sleep usually when the sun comes up.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I went on the internet last night before I went to sleep, and I seen you like just making a post at like 5 or 6 in the morning. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
You're up pretty early, man.
Well, I've already done the research through the encyclopedias and stuff like that before then. So I start sometime between 2 and 4 usually. Work my way through to the point where I'm about to post, and then Bell Canada screws up my computer and shuts off the line and won't allow my modem to dial in, and all these little nasty...
Making your life tough. That's the same problem.
That's okay. That's their job. We can't all be stupid. There needs to be some stupid people. You know?
Yeah. Well, all right,
okay.
Glenn. All right, Glenn.
Talk to you again.
Okay, bye.
Bye.